Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to remove the subframe on this 1971 Camaro. Stay tuned. What is up guys, my name is Dan and you're watching Resto Car, your source for DIY content to help you finish those builds. And hey, if you're a weekend warrior that's restoring a car at home, consider subscribing because that's what we do on Resto Car. Alright guys, so I'm going to take you around the car and show you everything that you need to disconnect, remove, in order to get that subframe separated from the body. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so as most of you know, my car's already in project, kind of torn down, so a lot of the stuff's already removed, but we're gonna go ahead and kind of cover everything anyways. First thing you wanna remove is your hood. You can leave your hinges on if you want, but the hood's gotta come off to get room to everything else. All right, then you'll wanna remove your steering shaft. You can remove it in different places. You can take the whole thing out if you want. You know, I took the whole steering wheel out. All right, next you gotta take your wiring harness and separate it from the rest of the car. Also, if you have a master cylinder for a clutch attached to the firewall, you'll need to disconnect that from the transmission one way or another. Then you wanna take your brake booster. You can leave the brake booster on, but you gotta disconnect your brake lines. If you have any brake lines that go down and clamp to the subframe, you want to remove the clamps. You want to disconnect any fuel lines that run to the back of the car. If you have any fuel lines that run down and clamp to the subframe, you'll want to remove those clamps as well. If you have AC, you'll want to remove your AC lines from the box back here. You're also going to want to remove your heater core lines as well. Most cars have a ground strap either from the engine to the body or from the subframe to the body or both. So you'll want to look for ground straps and remove those. Any other wires that are attached to the subframe as well that also attach to the body you'll want to remove. All right, your inner fenders are going to attach right here. So you're going to want to remove the bolts for the inner fenders here. If you want, you can leave them attached to the fender and you can take the whole thing off as a clip. You're going to need to remove the bolts for the fenders on both sides as well. You got one here, one up here, got one here, and then you have two underneath the car that attach to the body as well. Same on the other side. You're going to want to remove anything that's in the way from you know, pulling the whole subframe out. In this case, I got the shifter here that's in the way, so we're going to take that off. Underneath the car, you're going to have to detach the drive shaft. You can just take it out. And if you have any subframe connectors that are connecting the subframe to the body, you'll need to remove those. If they're welded in, you're just going to have to cut them. All right guys, so when you get everything removed, disconnected, the next step is to spray the body mount bolts with penetrating oil. I like Aero Croil. It seems to work really well. I like it a lot, a little expensive, but it's worth it. I've already replaced the bushings and everything on this car to get the floor pans fit, so mine are not gonna be stuck, but if you haven't removed those bolts in a long time, there's a good chance they're gonna be stuck. They're gonna be hard to get out, and it's possible you might even knock the cages loose inside the floor pans or even up you know, where the inner fenders mount. If that happens, you're gonna have to cut the floor and repair that and then repair the floor. So we wanna try to avoid that. Kind of gauge it maybe based on how bad your body mounts look. If there's basically nothing left and you got a lot of rust, I would actually try to spray these bolts a couple days ahead of time and just keep spraying them each day a little bit. Some of them are harder to get to than the others, but I'll go ahead and show you, you know, kind of what I would do if it were me and the bolts were rusted. Here's a look at the penetrating oil that I like to use. I usually call it Croil. Official name, I guess, is Cano's Aero Croil. Basically, this stuff works really well. If you're interested in this, link in the description. But go ahead, like I said, my bolts are pretty good. They're not going to be stuck, but I'll go ahead and spray a little bit in there anyway. So whenever you have the inner fenders removed, you can have really good access to these here. So go ahead and spray some penetrating oil into there. Again, if your stuff's pretty rusty, I would do this a few days in a row. Basically, just take a little bit, spray it in there. It'll work its way down. Here's a quick look at the other side. You want to do the same thing. So the other bolts you can't get to from up top. This is where like a really good penetrating oil is going to come into play. Basically, again, if we take a look at this, the oil that creeps, you know, it's going to work its way up the bolt. Now we're under the car and we're going to the end of the subframe. And basically your other bolt's gonna be right here. Like I said, it's hard to get up in there. You can try to spray up through here. There's a hole here. You can try to spray up through, but what I would do is just, again, get a really good oil. Just soak this as much as I can and just do that a few times. So I don't have to do that here, so I'm not gonna waste any more of this. And again, if it's pretty rusty, you may wanna throw some heat to it. All right guys, so now we're ready to go ahead and remove the subframe. Basically the way I do this is I put a block of wood behind the rear wheel to prevent it from moving and a block of wood in front of the front wheel to prevent it from moving. Then I position jack stands to the rear of the subframe and I position them as close to the subframe as I can get them. And then after that, I go ahead and remove the bolts. The subframe will drop down onto the jack stands and therefore freeing the body from the subframe, at which point then I'll jack the body up a little bit and put it on jack stands, and then I'll go ahead and wheel the subframe out. All right guys, so you can see here that the jack stand is just a little too tall, so I'm gonna go ahead and jack up the front end just a little bit. All right guys, so you can see we got enough room there, so we're gonna go ahead and slide that under. We're gonna do the same thing on this side. Now we're gonna go ahead and let the car back down. All right guys, so now we got the jack stands right under the subframe, so we're ready to go ahead and take out the bolts. All right guys, so I'm gonna start up here at the inner fenders. I'm gonna take these out first on both sides. And guys, just saying again, you know, if you got rusty bolts, they haven't been removed in a long time, then you'll want to use impact gun that's going to get you a little further than using the ratchet and socket. You can use a ratchet and socket, but just make sure, again, even if you're using the impact gun, right, make sure you spray those bolts a few days ahead of time and use heat if you think you need to. So in my case, everything's brand new. I don't need to do that. So we're just gonna get the impact gun and zip them on out, and then we'll be ready to remove the subframe. So let's get to it. All right guys, so here are the bolts that were removed. You can see here that one's longer than the other. The longer one goes where the inner fenders attach, and the shorter one goes to the rear of the subframe. You can see that I've already replaced my bushings. These are Global West aluminum bushings, or solid bushings, whatever they're made out of, I think aluminum. The other one's still stuck on the car. We'll get it whenever we pull out the subframe. And then to get these off, we used a 24mm socket. All right guys, so we got all the bolts out. We are now ready to lift the body up off the subframe and then pull the subframe out. And guys, I just want to mention that for some added comfort, I went ahead and put the blocks behind the front wheel as well. So we got one in front and rear, and then also same in the rear here. This way, just no chance of these things separating. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and lift the body up, and to do that, I'm just going to take the jack and a block of wood and put it under my subframe connectors and lift it up that way. There's not a lot of weight here, you know, with everything out of the car, and plus the car will be pivoting on its wheels, its rear wheels, so I'm not worried about anything like denting or anything like that. So I'd say find some kind of brace underneath the car to get to if you don't have subframe connectors, or if you have something that you can use with the pinch weld and kind of lift it up that way. So just get creative and try something out. You can always get a buddy and lift up the body and kind of wheel it backwards too if you have the room. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and just lift it up a few inches, just enough to get that subframe out, and get some jack stands underneath the car body so that we can hold everything in place. So let's do it. All right guys, so basically the subframe connectors worked really well because it just lifted up both sides of the car for me. The noise that you might have heard there is just the subframe where it was dropping out past the subframe connectors. You can kind of see how that angle's down there. So I haven't welded those yet. I'm gonna do it after I get everything painted up. So at this point we are ready to take this out. What I'm going to do first is just get some jack stands right under the corner of the car body here, just in case something would happen, you know, if the jack would let loose, whatever. We don't want to have to repair any of this. So let's go ahead and get some jack stands under here, and then we'll go ahead and take this out. All right guys, so we got everything in place. You can kind of see what we got going on here. If you have a buddy that can help you out, it would be easier for, you know, a person on each side and then just wheel the whole body backwards would be the easiest way. Because I'm working by myself, what I'm gonna do is take my creeper with some wood on top of it, put it underneath of the transmission back there, and lower the subframe down onto it. And then we're gonna pull everything out. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, guys, we got it split apart. It went pretty well. Everything's good. So it would have been helpful to maybe have some wheel dollies or something around, but that's okay. The creeper did an outstanding job. So we got it out, and the only thing, here, try not to use your back like I did to lift that up, but I don't want to dig out the engine lift over there. So anyway, we got it up. It's not too heavy anyway, but it's up on jack stands. It's gonna sit here for a while. I'm after the underside of the car. In order to get the car flipped up on its side, the next thing we got to do is get the rear end out from under the car. But that's going to be in the next video, which will be out in a few days after this one. Hit that subscribe button and hit that post notification bell if you want to get alerts whenever we post the next video. We'll see you in the next one.